to the graffiti jungle. Follow Polingua. Benvenuti nella jungle del graffiti. Questo è Impastore Rockstar, a podcast with Gihareh. We actually got something to puff on. Some cigarillo. Buy me some tobacco. Cigars. We actually got bills. Still. Okay. So, I just watched. Let me get everything set up here. Alright, everything is set up. Alright, so I just watched the first 48 minutes of the Weapons movie. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get that changed up real quick. Okay. So I just watched. I thought this was also kind of cool. Like the first 48, the cop show, like investigation and whatnot. I thought this was kind of cool. So to have it at the first 48. Also, so one of the main reasons I even made the other before I watched this movie, before I did that live stream, one of my main things was like, okay, even after watching the trailer, seeing and what the plot is supposed to be, I was like, well, why is it called Weapons? You see what I'm saying? Like, based off what you hear from the plot and this and the third, hold on, this is also kind of weird. Like, I just opened this. And why the hell? Like, I just opened this, right? Just opened this. Like their songs is like, yeah, you probably shouldn't watch my phone. How did I just open this and this shit has like that? Like, what the hell? How? Okay. Anyway, let's do this. So, now, if you plan on watching a movie, I'm spoiling it. I'm telling you right now. I'm basically about to tell you what the hell happened in the movie. And I'm just reacting to it. Let me see. I wrote some stuff down. You can't see it, but yeah, I wrote some shit down. The first 48 minutes. So, my initial question before watching this movie is, why is it called Weapons? Still don't know. Now let's do this. So, I'm gonna tell you everything that's happening and just react to a couple things. Now, again, the trailer is actually the first few minutes of the movie. Like, as is. Like, how sometimes you watch a trailer, it's from this part of the movie, this part of the movie, this part of the movie. Nah. What you hear, the narration, and all that, that's how the movie starts off. The movie starts off just like that. So the movie starts off telling you that, okay, it wasn't the first day of school, but it's a Wednesday. What's the other movie? On Wednesdays they wear pink. Why is it a Wednesday? There's a little shit like that, but it does not matter anyway. So let's see. It starts off with the child narrating, just as you heard in the movie. Now, I mean, on the trailer. Now, some people thought that the child narrating was an interesting take. It's a little different, and that adds to like the creepiness of it. I was annoyed. It's an actual child that's actually narrating, but for me, it was. You ever heard a child try to tell a story? You ever listen to a child just talk and tell a story? It's things about that. The child narrator is was throwing me off in the first. I was like, bro, I'm over this. Like, stop talking. And that, cause that's like the first like 5 to 7 minutes. And so my first thing was like, yo, is this actually a little kid? Now, and it was because like a kid reading a script or something, right? And I'm just gonna just relate to some other movies. I don't mind the narration, but okay, for instance, watching Goodfellas. Yes, Goodfellas. There's a lot of narration in that. Casino, there's narration in that and things like that. So you're familiar with the concept. I was not fucking with the concept of this kid reading this shit because you know that it's a whatchamacallit, but then at the same time, it's also like it's clear and concise, and it's not the fact that it's clear and concise, but it's the this is like I'm gonna give you this part right here. Like this, I literally wrote this shit down. This part, right? Okay, so just to set you up, so it was a random Wednesday. Mrs. Justine Gandy, she's the teacher. She walks into her classroom. All the students are missing except one, a boy named Alex. Right? So of course, everybody is up in arms and they just like, yo, she needs to be questioned. She knows something. This, and the third, one, right? They stopped school. And so this is her narration that they stopped school for a month, but then it's like, yo, the kids still gotta learn. So they go back, they gotta go back to school. But before they go back to school, the night before they go back to school, to say that everybody's coming back, they have so this is what she says. They have a big meeting with a bunch of counselors and people like that. It's they have a big meeting with a bunch of counselors and people like that to help everybody figure out how to feel and be sad together, I guess. It's the I don't know. It's the fact that it's like a kid and it's not, it's like you're reading a fucking script. And it just wasn't, it wasn't passable to me. It just, and so it's almost, at that point, you could have just had the kid say some other shit. And I don't know. I was not fucking with the kid narrator. That was me. That's my opinion. So that's how the movie starts. Her narrating, and then she was like, she was like, the story actually starts here now, at that meeting. So while she's in this meeting, well, it's like all the parents and teachers and well, a bunch of counselors and people and stuff like that. I guess, yeah, but yeah, some of the parents are there. Yeah, parents are there, counselors, principal, all that shit, right? So they're at this big meeting or whatever, and then eventually, one guy stands up. And he was like, "I want to hear from her. I want to hear her talk. Just that, boom, boom, boom. What does she have to say for herself?" She gets up there trying to make a little apology, and Afterwards, like this is literally like, you know what I'm saying, afterwards. From this meeting, there's like this uproar. They kind of like follow her out, and they're like, "Yo, you need to just go straight home." She goes to get drinks. She goes to the liquor store, the liquor store, wine and spirits. She grabs one bottle, grabs another bottle. While she's there, she gets a call from an unknown number. She hangs up. She gets home. Now, when she gets home, she's just, you know, drinking, watching TV and whatnot. She hears a knock at the door. One knock, nobody says nothing. Next knock, and then she goes into her drawer, grabs like, I guess like taser or something, or some spray. I don't know. She grabs something, and she opens the door, and on the side of her car it says "witch." Now, the movie's already rated R, so yeah, which is what you would have put on the side of the car, or is it bitch? That makes much more sense. But make it make sense. That's one, right? On the side of her car, somebody paints in red letters, witch. Actually, that's kind of cool to me. You know, the way I paint my car, the way I painted my cars. So, that's one. Let me see. She goes to the school the next day. She talking to the principal. Principal's like, yeah, you should probably like stay away. You know what I'm saying, for a while. And this, not a third. Now, there's two things I mentioned I'm gonna see. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna see what happens later. Cause principal telling her like, yeah, you should probably just stay away for a while. She's like, no, I need to work. Like, I just can't be much about. I gotta work. She's like, I need to, you know what I'm saying? Most people are like, shit, yeah, I ain't gotta work. As long as I'm getting paid, something like that, right? But sometimes I look at shit like that, like, yo, if you're in a situation, am I still getting paid? Like, I'm not. I didn't ask whatchamacallit. Now, it's a couple things they're trying to emphasize here. Apparently, she gave a student a ride home once before, and you know, inappropriate, and this on the third. You know, in the times we live in, this on the third. Like, you know how some stuff should be like, damn, they just gave the kid a ride home. Everybody's good and safe, and nothing really happened. But then, you know, there are those instances where stuff did happen. But so she has that, and you know, she's drinking. No, I guess they're trying to set certain shit up. So when it comes to, I think it's called, and you know, in literature, in English class, you have direct and indirect characterization. So I'm gonna come back to that. So, because there's a couple things missing here. So, from school, so in this conversation though, when she's talking to the principal, he says, she was like, she said something, I think I feel something. And he was like, you know what, maybe that's your problem. Like, you're always thinking about yourself and this and the third. Because she wants to talk to the boy, Alex. He was the only one, like, all the rest of it's a class of 18 students, he was the only one missing. So, he was the only one that was still there. Now, in this conversation, she says, oh, yeah, she just wants to talk to him. He's like, we already had this conversation. You know, you can't talk to him. She's like, well, I think I have to think. He's like, you're doing too much of, like, putting yourself first and this and the third. And you put yourself first too much and the third. And then he's like, you know, think about how Alex feels. People's always questioning him and this and the third. Everything that's been going on, like, we're trying to give him some sense of normalcy. It's best that he's in another class. We're trying to give him some sense of normalcy and some type of routine. Now, after she goes to the school, last two, then from there, I'm trying to, what I wrote last two? Um, I wrote last two, I don't know why. Alex. No. She goes to the bar, right? So when she gets out of the school, when she gets out of the school, what happens when she got out of school? Oh, well, she called the cops. Now she's calling the cops. Like, mind you, her car getting painted on happened the night before. So this is the next day, assumingly. And now she calls the cops. She's filing a report. Now, as she's talking to the cop and filing this report or whatever, she looks over. She sees another cop like from a distance, and she waves at him, and he waves at her. Now, she goes to the bar, and when she goes to the bar, focus. She goes to the bar. Who walks into the bar? The cop that she waved at earlier. Now, I'm trying to figure out why I wrote this word last two. Drinks, call. She heard that knock at the door. Wish it. Oh, that's what I wrote last two. Oh. Okay. I was like, whatever. I wrote last two. Okay, when she was talking to the principal, she was asking to speak to Alex. And he was like, no, we already had this conversation before. But she was like, we're the last two. So it was like, what you mean we're the last two? And, you know, it's something like, y'all were the last two, you know, in that class. She's like, we're the last two. And so, you know, like, if building a classroom culture, I don't know if they had, you know, some type of like, we are this and this and the third. So we don't know, right? Now, what else? That's why I wrote last two. I was trying to figure out why I wrote last two. Because she said, we're the last two, her and Alex, from that classroom. But it's like she's a teacher and she's not a student. So what you mean y'all like, yeah, the last two? Like, I don't know, right? Goes to the bar, meets up with the cop from earlier. Now the cop from earlier is like, yeah, you know, I didn't want to reach out. I didn't, you know, thought things were, you know, I didn't want to make things worse and that third one born. Now, at this point, I'm sitting here looking at her. I'm like, yo, she look a little familiar. So actually, she is from, depending on what you've seen in this and third, but she's from Ozarks. She is the one, she the bad one that, but ends up working for Marty. You know what I'm saying? So she's the one that was at the place at one point with the boats and shit, just doing reckless bad shit. Well, you know, she grew up with her family in a trailer park and this and that, boom, boom, boom. And, you know, but then, you know, Marty ends up trusting her. She ends up working for Marty and things like that. So her, if you even know who I'm talking about, her, the young girl from that. Now, she's in this. I liked her better in that. So, two things here. Now, because you know how they try to emphasize certain things. So one, they don't like the relationship that she has with the students. Like she crosses the boundaries between teacher and a friend. And you need to just be a teacher. You can't be just giving them rides home, even if, you know what I'm saying, just because they live close to you and needed a ride home. Any of that shit, right? We shit like that. But outside of that, it's also her drinking. So you saw her go to the liquor store. You know what I'm saying? Grab one bottle, grab another one, right? You saw her go to the liquor store. That's one. Then, what else? She's at the bar. And, okay, we got some more stuff to do, okay. But, her and drinking. Now, here is the part that gets a little, why you doing that? Why you doing that? So, okay, she's at the bar with the cop. right? And she was like, "Hey, Tony, get him a drink." You know, what you want to drink? He says a Coke. She said, seriously. And you know, it's like, she drinking, you ain't gonna drink. And then you gonna order a Coke, really? And so she's like, come on, just have a drink, just ain't that wrong. And then it cuts. In the morning, she playing some music, like, wake up, it's sunshine, right? Something like that. And then he's in the bed, so. What happened? Not sure. We just see that, right? Um, Now, this is what ends up happening, though. This is where it kind of like, she drops him off. They have a little back and forth about the whole what's going on with the case and whatnot. Because mind you, he's a cop. He's like, I'm not an investigator. Now, she drops him off. Oh, I think. Oh, while they was at the bar, I think she asked how is such and such. I'm assuming this is another lady, because I didn't pay attention to the name in the beginning, but when they first mentioned it, and he was like, "Yeah, we're not really doing too well at this and the third one." So she goes to drop him off back at his car, and okay, I've been talking. I keep mentioning it now. Okay, the thing is, she went to talk to Alex, right? He's the only kid that's still whatchamacallit. So what am I trying to say? Oh, this is where things get whatchamacallit. She follows the bus. She follows the school bus. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Now you really ain't supposed to be doing that, right? She sees where Alex gets off at. She goes to knock on the door. Nobody answers. That's one. She was like, yo, I just seen him walk in here, this and the third. She looks over, it's newspaper all over the door. No, I mean all over the window. It's newspapers coming up the windows and shit. She walks around back, and like all of this is like, oh, you're really like one thing was like to follow the bus, see where he gets off. But then knock on the door, like, okay. Now you walk in because she had to open the gate and go around into back you in their backyard. It's like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, is you cool? So one of the like windows of the newspaper is like she can kind of like see through it, and so she like looking around, and she sees two heads just like they're like facing, like she just sees the back of two heads, and there's that. She like bumps into some stuff, knocks some stuff over. She leaves, calls her cop friend. The cop friend like, yeah, everything you was just doing this and the third, you need to whatchamacallit. And then she decides to camp out in front of the fucking house. And it's like, are you serious? So, but it gets to the point she falls asleep. And so when she falls asleep, and this time it's like nighttime. She falls asleep and it's nighttime, and she falls asleep, nighttime. The door opens. Pretend this is a something, and it's a person like standing there like this, and then they like hobble, walk over this little waddle walk over, like with the hand up, whatever, right? And get to the fucking window. And at this point, I was expecting like a, like break through the glass type of shit. Then, but then it's still like the person like moves to the left, Like they come up to the window, then they move to the left, and then it's like open the car door. I'm like, in the car? You in the car? I'm like, yo, and she don't wake up. And then you see some scissors, and she cut a piece of her hair off, and they take the hair, and it's like, are you fucking sick? Like this and that. But then it switches. So like before the first meeting or whatever, it said Justine, and so Justine Gandy is the teacher, and she's the girl from Ozarks, right? Then it says Archer. So Archer is one of the parents. I think his son name is Matthew, and he's, you know, he's sleeping in his son's bed. You know, he missed his child, his kid, and so what happens from here? Sleeping and so a couple things here. I think as his wife comes in and she's like, I'm going to work. She's annoyed. You know what I'm saying? He like wakes up, and I think he does construction, or like he's supposed to at least oversee the construction of some stuff. So he goes to the police station, you know, still pressing about this, and the police officer's like, yeah, don't you think that, you know, we're aggressively pursuing all leads, and don't you think we looked into this and her? And he mentions the fact, you know, she had a DUI, she was let go of her old school because of, you know what I'm saying, inappropriate, you know what I'm saying, relationship and this and that third with the student. So like, that's what I was trying to say, like indirect characterization. I'm gonna remember that, come back to that. So then, but it's like so you see that come up to with Justine Gandy. So this is like a go back, but with this character. So he is one of the parents stood up and was like, we want to hear from her and this and that, third. It was him, right? It was him. But that was the thing, right? And so when he went to go see, he's supposed to be like overseeing the construction of this house. Like he went to the police station, he's supposed to be overseeing the construction of his house, and like, we're waiting on money for you, boss, and this and that third. And so basically, like, one of his workers is saying, like, yeah, you know, we're supposed to do this, but the order never got, such stuff to go pick up this order, but then the order never got placed. He's like, oh, shoot, that's my bad. He was like, yeah, and we needed this. And he was like, and you see the door is painted red, but they wanted forest green. He was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, you check the order? Yes, the order said this and that. So basically, he been fucking up. And he the boss, he's supposed to be overseeing all this shit. And supposed to be going a walkthrough with the house and all this other stuff. So he was supposed to be the one to like switch to red paint though. So mind you, he had got the red paint and they had painted the door red, but it was supposed to be painted forest green. So he puts the paint in the back of his truck and he was like, he was supposed to go fix it and get the actual color that he was supposed to get or whatever. See that, but he's that angry parent. He is the one that followed Miss Gandy. He's the one that followed the teacher. And he does the whole thing with painting witch on the side of her car, right? And there's one more thing. Oh. So, mind you, when it first started with him, he was watching the tape. So one of the things is all the kids got up and left at 2:17 in the morning. But you know, some of the parents and people, they got, you know, the Ring cameras or the Blink, or they got whatever type of camera it is. And so they all kind of like see the kids, whatchamacallit, because that was one thing the cop said. The cop was like, yeah, none of these kids, whatchamacallit, they all left willingly, you know what I'm saying? So he watches the footage over again. That's how it started. It started with him watching the footage. His spot. Kind of, sort of, not really. But you see him watching it once. Then he watches it again. And so what he does is he's trying to track like the angle. Like he saw his kid run off in this direction. So he goes to another parent's house, and he's talking to her, the mom, and she was like, yeah, I'm not really comfortable with this and third. He waits outside that house. The dad pulls up. He asks the dad, and then the dad, whatchamacallit, and the dad's showing the footage. So he does this little whatchamacallit, night, because he had pulled out a map. And so he was like, okay, son ran off in this direction. And then he pulls, so he goes to that other parent's house, and then he wants to see which direction that their cat ran, and he does a cross section. So he's like, oh, that kid ran off this direction. So he has this, you know what I'm saying, boom, the vertical angles. And he circles it, and then it gets to a part, like, so he's looking at the map, and he's driving, he's like, come on, what am I looking for? You know what I'm saying? And then he pulls up to, oh, whoa. He sees the car that he painted on, the teacher, and so he sees her pull into the gas station. Did I talk about her? Whatchamacallit? I forgot. I still, bro, this is the thing. I wrote some shit down. I still forget to even mention that part. Why did I forget to mention that part? When did that part happen? Anyway, he sees her going to the gas station. He pulls into the gas station. He was like, he started trying to grill her or whatever. Now, this is the parts, the little parts of this is some more of the, you know. So they're going back. Her and him are going back and forth, right? And of course, you know, and he's like, you taking on this victim mentality and this and that, third, boom. You know, her and him are going this back and forth. She's like, you and everybody else thinks it's that and that, third. Go ahead and blame me. I already know that. You know, of course, she's tired of hearing it. And he's also, you know, he's scared of something, so you gotta get that. But like, as whatchamacallit, he's, you know what I'm saying, yelling at her or whatever, she looks off to the side. And, you know, his conversation drowns out. And she was like, Marcus? And I think it looks like the school teacher. The school principal. And so she's looking at him, but he's running towards them, like, blood all over his face, looking crazy and this and third. He comes after her and the dude, I don't know. There's this whole little skirmish and a little scuffle, and it was it's not a good, like, a fight, and, like, because there was even this one part, he, like, Archer is the parent. Archer, like, wrestled, and on the ground, he, like, kicked him, and he was like, don't you move, or don't get up, or something. It was just, you kids get back up in this and third, so, but then it kind of cuts into this next part, which I cut it off, and it's called Paul. So the next part is about to be from the perspective of Paul. But the other thing I was about to mention was there's another scene. So after she go check the house or whatever, back to Mrs. Gandy, Justine Gandy. She went to the house, saw the whole thing with the newspaper and shit. She made the call, and then she went to go drink. She went back to the liquor store. And then she and while she's at the liquor store, like, it was like, when you see her walk into the liquor store, you also see, like, this lady in red following her, and you're like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? Because the lady, like coming, like, she's following her, she come right behind her. And so the lady in red eventually, like, catches her, and she grabs a bottle, and she's like, you got him drunk and you fucked him and this and that. She's like, no. She was like, no, she's like, I didn't. It's like, you got him drunk and this and that. And yeah, at this point, she opens the bottle and, like, you know what I'm saying, pours it on her. But I was expecting, you know, crack that. You know, that's what I was expecting. But from there, she goes to, like, camp outside that house. And then the whole hair snip happens. But what I was about to say is, like, they're direct and there's indirect characterization. So, like, they're doing huge, it's supposed to be like, so for some reason, we'll see what's going on about this. Or is it just mixed direction, right? But to portray her as a drunk. in a sense. She like so far within her first few whatchamacallit, because it's her and then it switched to ours, and this is the first 48 minutes. So for she went, let's see, she got drinks, went home, then she was at the bar that one time, and then she went and got drinks again. So she's, you know what I'm saying, 3 times drinking. In the conversation with the principal, and it was about her inappropriate relationship with the students. And it was mentioned again with Archer. His part was saying like, yeah, did you leave a look into her? She was left from her old school because of inappropriate this and that, wrong. So there is this, you know, bashing of her character, and she's playing clueless. And then there's a couple other little whatchamacallits of like emphasis that, you know, that the other characters make. So for instance, one says, teacher said when she was like, she want to talk to Alex, and teacher was like, I mean, the principal was like, no. And she was like, well, I think Garfield, whatever, and he was like, that's your problem. You need to, like, whatchamacallit, think about, you know, from his perspective and like how he feels in this and third. That was one. And then it was also kind of mentioned again with the cop, and he was like, you know how you get, and you know, you want to just steam the situation and make things about you and da-da-da. So I'm not sure, what do you, like, I guess she's supposed to be like self-centered, or apparently she has this victim mentality or whatever. So I'm not sure if she's supposed to end up going to have like some type of, you know, mental illness where it's like, oh yeah, you know, the whole time, I don't know if it's gonna be one of those like, oh man, like, how do I say, like Shutter Island type of thing, like where it's just like she actually has some type of like mental disorder, and it's actually her, and she actually really whatchamacallit, because right now she's trying to look into it and investigate it or something. Or if it's supposed to be something else, somebody you totally just don't expect. But the principal, whoever, because she said Marcus, and he came and just attacked them looking all crazy. So I don't know what the fuck going on with that. But yeah, they do that. They do run like this, and they just be running. Where the fuck they be going? So, oh, the other thing. Now, it just popped up. And so again, I still don't know why the movie is called Weapons. But, did I mention this already? No. Well, Archer has this dream, and he goes to like chase his son Matthew. And Archer has this dream. He goes to like chase his son Matthew, and he walks into this house, and it was weird. There's like a boy. Well, he had to like pull the covers, and I'm not sure I'm making sense. So Archer's having a dream. He sees his son run across, and he follows his son into this house, and then he opens the door, and there's something under the covers. It was weird because he was like, talk to me, where'd you go, why are you doing this and that? And he's like, where are you? It sounded like he was yelling some shit, and he was like, he wants to tell him that he missed him, he love him, this and that, and then it's like this little jump scare, because you see like a little boy under the covers, whatever. But then it like at one point it just like switches, and it's like this face or whatever. But before Archer walks into the house, he looks up, and above the house is what's happening above the house? Above the house, it's this. I'm not sure if you can tell. No. I'm not sure if you can tell. But if you look at like the outline, so like Archer is walking. His son had already ran into the house, but before Archer gets into the house, he sees like it gets covered in clouds at one point, but it gets. I think you can see it. It's an outline of a Swiss cheese. You know what I'm saying? But no, it's an outline of a weapon, and it has the 217 time in there. So that's the most whatchamacallit. So still a couple questions that I still have. We still got like another hour to go in the movie, but the next part is from Paul's perspective. I don't know who Paul is, but I'm about to find out. Still don't know why it's called Weapons. We still don't know what happened to what's going on with the kids or whatever, and why is the time 217 so important? Why is the time 217 so important? Anything else? There's still a lot to be figured out. It's just some, I guess, weird stuff type happening, but we will definitely see. We'll definitely see. Figure this out.